Welcome to Bike Week Radio Show.
Powered by Geico. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on motorcycle insurance.
Bike Week Radio Show with Bobby Wooldridge, Broc Glover, and Paul Carruthers on San Diego's sports leader, the mighty 1090.
Good morning and welcome into Bike Week Radio Show on San Diego sports leader, the mighty 1090. Thank you once again for making us part of your Sunday morning routine. Joined in studio by Paul Carruthers and Scott Cox once again. Broc Glover in the air somewhere, private helicopter.
Might be over Plaster City about right now.
We'll have to check in with his chopper and see what he's up to.
That's where my son has to go this week, I think.
Plaster City? Oh, there he is. Broc, can you hear me? Broc, put your headset on.
We'll have to have him do traffic and weather, too, while he's in that chopper. But Broc will be joining us a little bit later in the program, around 9:30, 9:40, and he'll give us the full Supercross update. And so we'll save that portion of the news for when Broc gets here. But, Paul, good morning. Good to see you again, buddy.
Yeah, good morning. It's quite the drive down here this morning. I think my wipers were working overtime. No, I haven't seen it rain that hard. Well, that's the hardest it's ever rained on a drive down here. So, yep, I might have to put new blades on the vehicle today. I'm really glad I wasn't on a motorcycle.
I don't know. I've ridden in the rain, and I'm just not a rain guy.
I'm not.
People say, we really need the rain. No, we just need the water.
Well, people always say, like, oh, it's so bad you're cold and you're wet and all that. I never noticed that because I'm so scared. Like when you can't see and you're on a motorcycle.
You're afraid of people like that lady that's in the center divider.
Yeah, I hope that lady's okay.
We hope she's okay, for the record. Bike Week Radio Show. Sending out some...
Well, we should say what happened. I'm driving down here, and I get through Camp Pendleton, and on the shoulder of the fast lane, there's a lady in a Mercedes facing the wrong direction. I don't know how
bad situation to be in.
She obviously spun without hitting anything, which good on her. I'm not sure it was skill or luck, but I'm kind of worried that she was just sitting there facing the wrong way in the pouring rain with oncoming traffic. So I don't know how she would have got out of that.
And Paul had his responsibilities here on air this morning, so
yeah, I should have stopped.
He's thinking
I feel bad.
Well, then you'd have two people in trouble.
No, we would, because I don't know how I would have gotten to her, to be honest. They need to have a police break or something where they can get to her, but hopefully she's fine.
But speaking of guys riding in the rain.
We'll be joined at 9:15. We were sitting down with Jimmy Lewis last week up at Anaheim 1, and we captured maybe half dozen great interviews, but since we only have our 1 hour, they will slowly start to spill out over the next couple of weeks, or just head to bikeweekradioshow.com. We'll be posting some of the podcasts that...
In fact, Epic Phil has been on a project. He's been on a tear since we got back to the office after the holiday break, and he is segmenting out all of our interviews. I mean, here we are. We went on air in 2012. It's now 2015. We've collected a substantial amount of interviews here in the studio and elsewhere, and in a very short period of time, maybe within a matter of days, fans will be able to go to our website, do a Google search, and find an individual, Kurt Caselli, Wayne Rainey, Broc Glover, and individually segment the interviews if they want to listen to some of the people that we've spent time with.
Hell yes!
Yeah,
that's a good idea because sometimes you don't necessarily have the time to listen to an entire show, but there's one from, like you said, 2 years ago that you're kind of interested in.
And we get a lot of requests from people that say, hey, so-and-so was on your show way back when. Is there a way to send us his interview? And, we can find the show, but now Phil has gone in and he's increased his level of epicness by making it possible to listen to that.
That's got to be time-consuming.
It's time-consuming.
And you're paying him well, though. That's good.
He does a good job.
Worth every penny. So thanks again, Phil. That'll be up bikeweekradioshow.com. And, of course, the full podcast will be available on iTunes. But if you want that special feature, you have to go through bikeweekradioshow.com.
He's also building our own app, too, but we'll talk about that in another show.
How
we'll have
about
a Bike
that?
Week Radio Show app.
Well, let's just jump into the news here with our good buddy, Paul Carruthers.
Nobody knows the news better than Bike Week Radio Show.
This was an age when only men were allowed to read the news.
And only Bike Week Radio Show has Paul Carruthers.
Yeah, I'm here. We can do the news now. It's all right, everyone. We can do the news. Hold on. Everyone, why are we all standing around? Let's go.
Well, Since we're going to wait for Broc to helicopter his way back to San Diego from Phoenix,
that's what we agreed to.
We'll talk about the Supercross with him when he shows up. In the meantime, the big event going on, and especially from a worldwide perspective, is the Dakar Rally, which, Scott, I know you're real familiar with. You've actually been there and done that.
Well, I've been around the Dakar teams. I've been on a rally in northern Africa, but not on the official Dakar. But I pay attention to it, and I've been a fan of it since day one. Really.
And now it's in South America.
Now it's in South America,
for a few years.
Jimmy Lewis told us it was now referred to as El Dakar.
El Dakar. Anyway, I think that race, I find it's intriguing to me. It's kind of like an Isle of Man type thing. It's once a year, and it can be horrific at times, and sometimes you go online to see the results or to see what's happened, and you kind of hold your breath, just hoping that nothing bad has happened, because it is, it's a dangerous event, and there's lots of participants, and they're going fast, and they're in unfamiliar terrain, and a lot of things can happen. But on Friday, they reached their halfway point. The motorcycles had a rest day yesterday, and they're back in action today. Joan Barreda and the Factory Honda team are winning the event, which is, at this point in time, an upset. I mean, Honda's been involved for this maybe their third year.
I think 3 years back now.
As official, but I mean, their effort's gotten stronger every year as they try to counter KTM, which has been...
Yeah, because they said it, Honda was away from rally racing for a number of years.
Right.
They had been involved, and then they pulled out.
Yeah, and I think they came back, kind of put their toe in the water a little bit with some supported teams, but now, I mean, it's a full HRC effort.
It's the real deal.
And Barreda is obviously a good rider, and he's leading the overall standings. He was 6th in Stage 6. But still was able to put 2 minutes on KTM's Mark Coma, who is, how many has he won?
4?
Yeah, I think 4. He's a legend. I mean, at this point in time, there's people obviously pulling for Barreda and the Honda team, but there's also a lot of people that think, okay, just wait and see, because Coma is Coma.
Yeah.
The KTM team, nobody knows it like them.
And it's a long race.
It's a very long race, and today they're in what they call a marathon stage, which is massive.
It's a long stage, and there's no support. So typically, day to day, each of the stages, a rider or a driver, if you're driving in a car or one of the big trucks, you finish, and then the crew of mechanics goes to work. The riders themselves don't necessarily have to work on the bike like they would in a 6-day. But now they're out there unsupported. There's no bivouac. They've got to camp out, sleep in the sand, whatever, do their own maintenance, and you're on your own until you see your guys the following day.
Yeah, so they're underway with that marathon stage now. I just checked as of a few minutes ago. Coma had gained about 2 minutes as he's trying to eat away at Barreda's lead. But again, like you said, there's a long ways to go. Barreda's currently going into today's stage. Barreda was leading Coma by 12 minutes and 27 seconds. Paulo Gonçalves is third. But I think anybody would probably tell you at this point that that's going to be a two-man race for that victory there. The Aussie in me kind of like to see Toby Price finish second in Stage 6.
That guy's a rider.
Yeah, he's a good rider. He's fairly new to the event. Is it his first or second year?
I want to say it's his second, but maybe it's just his first.
Yeah, I think it's his second. But no, nice to see. There's a lot of storylines in that event, and it's awesome that Yamaha's involved, Honda's involved, and obviously KTM's involved on a big level.
And KTM's pretty excited too, because there's a rookie, first time out. This guy Matthias Wagner, as our friends over there would say, and he's kicking butt. He won Stage 3, and this is the first time down there, so it's pretty impressive to see a young guy with no Dakar experience doing as good as he's doing.
Right, and we've got an interview coming up with somebody that can explain.
Yeah, I think so.
Been there, done that, and has a good perspective on what that event's actually like as somebody who's done it. So, yeah, hopefully those guys stay safe, and it'll be interesting to see what happens at the end of today to see if Coma continues to eat into that lead and gets that thing a little closer in the overall standings. But as far as news goes, that's about it. I mean, there's not a lot of racing going on except for Supercross has everybody's attention at this point, and luckily we have Broc who goes to all those races, and we'll get to check in with him a little bit later, and he can give us the lowdown on exactly what went on at Phoenix last night.
Yeah,
and so where's
Broc,
he now? Broc Glover just crossing over the state line.
Yep.
And so he should be landing here in about 20 minutes or less if he tips the helicopter.
Well, he's got all those autograph cards that were left over. They're probably going to make a sweep through El Cajon and Spring Valley and
sprinkle them off.
Yeah. Too bad it's rainy. They get all gummed up. They stick to the rotors.
So once again, we'll be checking with Broc towards the third act of the show. But coming up next, Jimmy Lewis. You guys hinted at it a little bit. We talked to him up at Anaheim 1 last week, and basically just a badass mother.
He's a tough guy.
Or he has some stories, and man,
he's a tough guy, and I don't think there's anybody that I know who's more passionate about riding motorcycles with knobby tires than Jimmy Lewis. He is the real deal.
And so we'll play for that interview next coming up. But right now, once again, 2015 partnered with our good buddies at Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys. And what better way to get 2015 going by signing up to be a BAM member? If you haven't done it yet, shame on you. If you have done it, you're in good hands. Because
we salute you.
Well, today's a perfect day where you must be a BAM member.
Day.
Raining, a little wet out there, conditions slightly hazardous.
Had that lady you saw, Paul, been on a motorcycle, and if she was a BAM member, there would have been 10 guys there already.
Shielding her
and stopping traffic.
Yeah, I don't think, the car world doesn't have a BAM.
No, they don't.
All the more reason, Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys. And here, once again, another helpful riding hint from our good buddies. Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys have been representing riders for decades. And here's Chuck Coro from Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys to provide you with a helpful riding hint.
In order to resolve a case in your favor, you have to show that the other party was at fault or at least partially at fault. Unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't matter if the other party was truly at fault if you can't prove it. In cases where the fault issue is disputed, it's important to weigh the chances of success versus failure as the case unfolds. An experienced lawyer should be able to guide you accordingly.
This helpful hint was brought to you by Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys at 1-800-4BIKERS or online at russbrown.com.
Hi, James here from Toyota of Escondido. Guys, if you're hearing this commercial, that means you are into powerful machines that go fast and are durable. Toyota of Escondido has the biggest selection in San Diego of Toyota Tacomas and Toyota Tundras. Whether for work or play, we can customize the truck of your choice into the truck of your dreams. Don't waste time anywhere else. Stop by or give us a call. Toyota of Escondido.
Toyota of Escondido.
Freeway close where Highway 78 meets Broadway, just east of the 15.
Here's an idea. Bear with me. You could save quite a bit of money just by switching your motorcycle insurance to Geico. Piles of it, in fact. But there may not be a lot of room on your bike for all that extra cash. So I had somewhat of an idea. You could get one of those nifty little sidecars, pile it up with all that money you just saved, and merrily drive on your way. It's just a thought. Just off the top of my head.
Call Geico today for a free motorcycle rate quote. Geico, saving people money on more than just car insurance.
Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys are the real deal. Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys. Their entire practice is dedicated to representing motorcyclists. As riders themselves, they understand why you ride, the issues you face, and the motorcycle culture. For over 30 years, Russ Brown and his partner Chuck Coro have been helping injured motorcyclists and their families get the care and compensation they deserve. Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys also created BAM. BAM! A nationwide buddy system of over 2 million riders helping riders in the event of a roadside emergency. BAM offers free legal advice, and thanks to Russ Brown, they have staff on hand to take your call 24/7, 365 days a year. Imagine a real person answering the phone 24/7. Just call 1-800-4BIKERS for more information and to get your BAM card today. If you go down, call Russ Brown. 1-800-4BIKERS and online at russbrown.com.
The negotiation begins the minute you walk in the door, Frank.
Jerry, I'm going to Toyota Carlsbad for my new Toyota. I don't have to worry.
Brother, walk in with that attitude, you're dead meat.
Yeah, I don't think that's
First
the case.
thing when you walk in,
What?
walk out.
Jerry,
you come back the next day, just walk right in, walk right out. Look, come back a week later, look them right in the eye and say,
I'd like to buy a car.
No, walk out.
Jerry, does this explain why you don't own a car?
You made me forget, was I in or out?
You're out.
Walk into big savings today on new Toyotas at Toyota Carlsbad.
Toyota Carlsbad.
You're listening to Bike Week Radio Show with Bobby Wooldridge, Broc Glover, and Paul Carruthers on San Diego's sports leader, the mighty 1090.
Welcome back, Bike Week Radio Show, San Diego sports leader, the mighty 1090. Last week, we were up at Anaheim for the first Supercross of the season and partnered with our good buddies, the Legends and Heroes. And, it's just fun to be out at the opening event.
Hanging out with Alex and Mike and the crew from Legends and Heroes is always a hoot. And, Anaheim's a good one, especially first Anaheim, because it's like the Academy Awards. I mean, the glitterati from motorcycling, they show up there. And among the glitterati we spent time with was Jimmy Lewis.
Well, it's nice being partnered with the Legends and Heroes because they're like our fishing lure, you know? They get to see the whole banner and the glitz and glamour, and that sucks them in, and then we go, oh, that's Jimmy Lewis. Hey,
we sink our hooks into him.
Exactly. Why don't we sit down and grab you for a few minutes here?
Yeah. And he always has a lot to share.
And so I know Jimmy, we've been trying to track him down for some time now to get him on the program.
But he's always riding. He's always out in the desert, and he's based primarily for his off-road schools in Pahrump, Nevada, but he has a home in, I think, Huntington Beach, and I don't know if he still considers himself a Southern California guy, but I do. And when he came by, he's always got a project going. His latest project is called Dirt Bike Test. I think it's dirtbiketest.com, which is pretty cool. He's setting up his own. He's evaluating dirt bikes and dirt bike-related products. That's going real well for him. And this time of the year, he is focused on his event called King of the Motos, which is just a gnarly, extreme event that takes place in the desert on February 1st, Sunday, February 1st. He'll probably have 100 riders. They come from all over the world to compete there. So if you haven't heard about it, it's King of the Motos 2015. And the subject that we wanted to get into that Jimmy has a lot of expertise in is the Dakar Rally. He's a 3-time veteran. I think Jimmy's actually been on the podium in Dakar, which is quite a feat. And he was a factory BMW rider, which is BMW is not involved in motorcycle racing in the Dakar currently, but man, did they
used to own it.
Oh, they owned it. They were really a significant sector in rally racing, and Jimmy was right central to it. So,
well, here's our interview with Jimmy Lewis.
When I think of Jimmy Lewis, I think of gnarly off-road Dakar-inspired stuff. And how many times did you race Dakar?
I like to say 3.5 times.
3.5 times.
My first time didn't go so well. I was actually doing real well, riding real well, and I just got sick. I actually got diarrhea and dehydrated and nearly died. And but it just shows you how something very simple can cause a really big problem.
And this is when Dakar was in
Africa. Correct.
And technically it finished in Dakar, Senegal. Which
correct.
Nowadays it's moved to South America.
Yeah, it's El Dakaro. So it's different. And I would never say that it's any more difficult or any easier or anything. I mean, times have changed like any kind of racing. It just evolves. And the guys now are riding a lot faster. They're on a lot smaller bikes.
Yep. What'd you ride? When the events you went to, what were you riding?
2 times rode a KTM single cylinder. One was a 620 and the other one was a 640.
Yep.
And then 2 years later, I went back on a BMW and I rode the 900RR, which was the twin cylinder based off the Boxer motor.
And what was that like riding something like that heavy, that big, that
awesome.
Powerful?
It's a 100 horsepower dirt bike or more.
Yeah.
And the cool thing was I remember actually there's a video clip of me when I was doing it in '97 where they had me mic'd up and they were following me with the helicopter and I was talking and I was. It was a really fast stage, and I was talking about, man, I can't imagine how fast the twin-cylinder bikes are going. And I said I don't think I'd ever want to ride one of those because they were I couldn't even fathom how fast they go. Well, once I got to ride one, I knew exactly why I wanted to ride one, because there's nothing like it. And those were hand-built factory bikes. It was a bike that was built,
what we would call works.
It was absolutely a works bike, and BMW was like this crazy unlimited budget to go win, and so it was a bike built for me, and it was incredible. I mean, riding a bike with that much power in it, it's not like people say, oh, my adventure bike is like that these days.
There's nothing like it.
No, it's a dirt bike with a really big, fast motor, and they're dangerous. I mean, and I don't think that's the reason they really switched to the 450s. They switched to 450s really to get
costs
more manufacturers in. I don't know if costs really necessarily went down, but they got more manufacturers in, more competition.
Hey, look, Paul Carruthers is joining.
It was more. It was a little more accessible for a regular guy to get in, where it was a little bit, I think, cost prohibitive and just equipment prohibitive. There wasn't a whole lot of real. You couldn't go buy a rally bike. Now you almost can. I mean, you can literally buy a factory KTM.
Yeah, you can order one up
and go race the rally. So it's I think it's good for the sport. I would love to see it go back to Africa, because there's nothing like those vast open expanses. It's the kind of, like I told people, there were stages that's the kind of stuff you dream of riding. You have the dream of the best ride in your life, and I rode that stage in Africa.
What stage would that have been?
It was there's a couple of them, but
countries?
It was actually in Niger, along the Nile. It was along the Nile River.
Really?
And it was, I think, one of them was going away from Timbuktu. It's kind of they all kind of blend and blur together.
Right.
But it's just pink sand dunes along a green river with miles of desert
on a bike that just would do everything.
Yeah. Twist it and go.
So these days...
Well, I was going to say, Jimmy, you said 3.5 because you got violently sick. Was it something you ate or drank, or something bite you out there?
I always called it the Welcome to Africa disease. You're going to remember me for the rest of your life.
Oh, my goodness.
It somehow changed the entire my intestinal system.
Oh, my goodness.
But it was... I don't know. I just don't think... It's just like probably when we go down to Mexico, sometimes you can't drink the water. And I think, just like when people from Africa come here or people from Mexico come here, they drink the water, it makes them a little bit sick. It's just you don't have those.
Yeah, because you can train all you want on the bike, but unless you go live there for a while, I mean,
you train your guts.
Yeah,
it snuck up on me. I didn't see it coming, and it was probably as simple as going to the doctor and getting some pills to fix it. But at that time, I was actually scared of doctors, believe it or not. So
who is it?
So so it was a lesson learned, better off for it.
Yeah, well, so I'm not going to Africa without consulting you first. Give me some pointers.
So, Paul, you and Jimmy have a little bit of history together, don't you?
Not really, because he came. He was always on the dirt bike side.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've seen him around when
you're contemporaries.
Yeah, we've kind of we did sort of the same thing from different sides, I guess.
So, Jimmy, how many guys like Paul show up and say, "Hey, Jimmy, I want to train with you. I want to go to Dakar"? You must get that call like every week. Some guy that's hell-bent to spend a bunch of money. And
I do a little. No, nobody wants to spend any money. They kind of want to. They want me to sponsor them usually or something. They think I know how to get that sponsorship deal. But I do a lot of rally navigation training still. Yep. And I've worked with a few kids that are really successful. Actually, a lot of the guys that started on motorcycles have moved over into cars. There's some Polish guys. I still work with Johnny Campbell every once in a while, and now he's sitting next to Robbie Gordon starting tomorrow.
That's probably a really good co-driver to have.
He is. I think he's one of the best.
He might be the guy that can make a difference for that.
I would like to see them actually go out and train a little bit. I mean, I always tell Johnny, hey, you need to get him out in the desert, because it's teamwork. It's like anything, and they have to trust each other. I mean, Johnny doesn't have his hands on the steering wheel, and Robbie may not know where he's going.
That's got to be just a terrifying. I've been co-driver in some race cars before. It's just not my thing. It's scary as hell.
I asked Johnny how I asked Johnny how he could do it, and he's like, he puts a lot of trust in the Lord, and that's I think that really helps him out there.
God bless him.
Exactly.
Over and over.
But being a motorcycle guy, you're so used to just being in control, absolute control of what you're doing, and to kind of release that to somebody else and do that, it would frankly be very difficult for me. I think I'd like to drive, but I don't know if I could trust. I don't even know if I could trust my navigator, because I feel like I'm a good navigator. I'd want to do that too, but It's a tricky game.
So your training camps that you're doing these days, are you doing it as what's the name of your company, or are you just doing it as Jimmy Lewis?
It's just Jimmy Lewis Off-Road Training. We actually have been doing it since 1999, and we kind of cater to the dual sport and large adventure touring bike rider, and we really teach what seem like very basic riding skills, but they're the foundation you need to become a better rider. And it's not that I ever have to tell somebody, what they need to do to go faster or how to, control their bike better. You realize that you're making mistakes on very fundamental things such as clutch control, throttle control, utilizing the brakes properly, feeling for traction, and ultimately balance. And so we work on that stuff, and especially on the big heavy bikes, it makes an instant difference. And so we've been, like I said, been doing that school for a long time. We do basically one to two classes a month based out of Pahrump, Nevada. We're just over the hill from Las Vegas.
Are you based in Pahrump these days?
Yep. And so that's what I've been doing for a while, and just lately started up a new thing called dirtbiketest.com, which is motorcycle product testing, and
darn good.
Kind of what what I've been doing at the magazines for. I mean, I started at Cycle News back in. I don't know. I got hurt once, and I took my camera out and shot some pictures and.
Do you remember that day, Paul?
Sent them into kit.
I think it was even before my time.
Yeah, sent them into kit. Yeah. Next thing you know, I was writing stories while I was waiting for the cast to come off my foot. So, and then spent 11 years at Cycle World magazine, 8 years at Dirt Rider, in between doing a few racing stints here and there, and just trying to support the bad habit of riding dirt bikes, which I love still to this day.
That's for sure.
I've got a question on the car. Obviously, the really good guys are really good guys. I mean, as far as riders. Back in the pack, are there some guys that are just like pay their money and
I think absolutely. I mean, it's especially when it was more difficult to do, just because of logistics and things like that. There were a lot of just kind of pay to play guys that had enough money to go do it, or it was their lifelong dream. They would work for 5 or 6 years to build up enough money to go and do the rally. And in Europe, it's so popular. A regular guy could actually get some pretty decent sponsors. It might be his pub in his town that's going to front $20,000 of the bill to go do the rally,
right?
And stuff like that. But now I think they're a little more picky about you having to have some professional credentials or something. I know that's very difficult even for some American riders. Because I'll get calls all the time. It's like, hey, can you sign my certification letter to say that I'm qualified to go and things like that. So it's I think there's a little bit, you got to have the money. I mean, if people ask what's a budget for that all the time, and I say you got to have about $100,000.
Ouch.
Yeah,
that's a realistic budget
to do it right.
Call Broc Glover.
That's right. So what's it cost to build a bike? I mean, nowadays, if Paul decided that we're going to have a Bike Week radio show entry next year, how big a check do we need to write to build a bike? A proper bike for him to compete on.
I think you can. I think and honestly, the best thing to do is probably just go buy the KTM, because it's not just the bike. And I mean, you can. And there's kits you can buy to build Hondas and Yamahas and stuff.
Just buy one that's been done by guys who know what they're doing.
I want to say $25,000 to $30,000
for the bike.
For the bike,
but you still need the rest of the $100,000 to do your deal.
You need another motor. You need a bunch of sets of wheels and tires. And it's all Moose over there, and they all have to be fresh and stuff. And then,
for those who don't know, our listeners, Moose is a solid tire liner.
It's a foam insert instead of air inside your tube. It's essentially
so
like a foam
tube. Tubes and getting out CO2 cartridges in the dunes.
And I don't even think you factored in the surgery it would take for me to get larger testicles implanted.
You can buy them at the starting line in Buenos Aires.
Hey,
they sell them on a cart.
You know the best way to go do that rally is just look at it as like a trail ride every day and just get to the finish line. And that's what a lot of people do. They go over there and they're not really prepared. They maybe they don't even race that much, and all of a sudden they think they're in a race, and it's like you got, now I think it's 2 weeks of this, and it's not tomorrow, you got to get to the finish line. But
how many days is it fun? I mean, you've been there doing the real deal. But
well, when I was doing it, I think one of them was 21 days, and
but it's only fun for what, 2, 3, 4 days.
You have your moments. It's just like anything, it's up and down. The best thing about it was all you had to do was eat, sleep, ride your motorcycle. And
Nothing else to think about.
Back then, we didn't even have. There was no Twitter, Facebook, no
Right.
internet communication.
Right.
I didn't talk to my wife for 6 or 7 days at a time. I might be able to find one of the journalists to be able to send
Right.
an
Hey,
email
send
out
a
to her.
message.
Yeah, and there was.
So you weren't encumbered with all that.
No,
stuff.
she would find out how I was doing based on the television show that was 2 days delayed. And she could go on the internet and find some reports.
And it's one of those things. If she doesn't hear anything, then it's okay.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah,
Fine.
Helicopter's coming.
Right. A guy didn't show up at the door.
Yeah. But, when you go back and look at like where that budget is, you have to think your parts have to be transported, every day along with you. That rally doesn't stop. It doesn't do loops. It's going from one place to another. So there's a lot of moving stuff around, and there's whether you're sleeping in a tent or do you have a mechanic that's with you, that's additional expense. So it gets pretty pricey. Plus shipping all your stuff down to wherever it starts and then getting it back home.
It would be a pretty cool event if you did it the way he said, and just like, hey, I'm going on a nice long trail ride every day, and I'm not going to get lost, and I'm going to get to where I'm supposed to go.
I've always told people I'd love to be a nice, high-priced water boy.
Yeah,
and that's back in the days. The top riders had you had a guy that was sort of on the same bike as you that was riding very conservatively. So if we had a marathon stage, you would get his wheels.
And who was that? Just I want to say it was maybe 3 years ago when Cyril kind of melted down a rear tire, and who was riding with them?
It was actually Marek Dabrowski, who is a kid that I trained, and he was
sacrifice my.
He was
ride.
actually he was actually a water boy for another guy, but Cyril was more important, and it's like, hey, this will pay it forward.
Yeah, we know Cyril. He's been on the show, and
Cyril,
of course, when Cyril says, "Hey, mon ami," you're stopping, right?
And interesting fact was,
you may have my boots.
My last year on BMW, Cyril was my water boy.
Yeah, I remember him saying that.
Your water boy.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
He loves it when I say that. He loves it. I remind everybody of that.
We're going to need that.
I think we brought that up when we interviewed
That's
him.
right.
Yeah. Oh, he gets pissed.
Yeah, he wasn't. That might have been the end of the interview.
He probably would encourage them to get into cars because he figured at one point we're going to have Jimmy on the show.
He's a great guy, super talented rider.
Awesome guy.
He was just a kid working at a Honda shop in Paris, France, and I did a couple extreme enduros, and I used bikes based out of their shop, and he was the kid. He was a good rider, and he actually through that shop challenged 75. He rode Dakar in 2000 on an XR 400, a very stock XR 400.
How'd he do? Finished?
Yeah, finished maybe top 30 or something like that. But, on an XR 400, riding across Egypt and Libya, you're only going so fast. But he finished, and it was funny because at that time, that's when BMW lost recharge sank because we all went to twin cylinders.
Right.
We needed to have a French rider on the team, and that was just part of the plan. We had a big French Gilloise. I was part of the cigarette sponsor age, not the energy drink age.
Every day.
Yeah, different deal.
Every time you stopped the bike, you had to light up.
Yeah. So they were looking for a French guy, and I'm like, hey, I know this kid. I know this kid that'd be really good. And he came over, and we actually tested tires out in the Mojave
that Dakar
Desert.
thing kind of worked out for
Cyril. Real well.
I think you need. There's got to be a cut in there somewhere.
There's got to be.
I told him I'd go back as a water boy. He didn't want it.
Well, now you can be his co-driver.
Yeah. Now he's really burning up cubic dollars or euro.
Well, his teammates, he's got some good teammates. Peter Hansel.
So Jimmy, give us where can our listeners find you so they can hone their skills that might eventually take them to Dakar?
Well, with the school, it's jimmylewisoffroad.com, which is pretty simple. And then with the dirt bike test, it's dirtbiketest.com. So easy things to remember. And I'm around digitally when I'm not out riding.
That's a good thing.
Perfect.
Well, Jimmy, thank you again for stopping by, and we'll be keeping tabs on you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Hope everything's interesting down in Dakar. I'm loving to watch it.
Well done. All
right, see you.
There you go. Jimmy Lewis, once again, what a fantastic interview. Interesting cat. And we could have gone another half hour with Jimmy.
He's a good guy and a fun guy to go riding with, too.
And so, yes. So if you missed that interview, you just tuned in halfway through, don't worry. Head to bikeweekradioshow.com, where we now have the new feature of just the interview podcast to click on.
That's right.
Fantastic.
It's a good feature.
And so, also another nice feature, we are partnered with Toyota Carlsbad. Toyota Carlsbad, one of the biggest selections of trucks. I know a lot of people are heading out there for riding season. And
there's a lot of truck activity here, especially for dirt bike people.
Mm-hmm.
Got to have a truck to haul your dirt bike around.
And we were up at Anaheim 1, and it was just a sea of trucks. And so,
yeah.
And you know what? I'm going to be honest. Some of those people, they need a new one.
They
need a fresh one.
Yeah, I'm one of those people.
I know where to go. Toyota Carlsbad, my friend. They'll take care of you up there.
So, Broc's helicopter still hasn't touched down out here on our helicopter pad. You know, it's the weather. It's blowing them around a little bit. But we were holding off to talk about Phoenix Supercross last night.
And so when we come back, Broc Glover will be joining us, a guest on his own program. Coming up next right here, Bike Week Radio Show, San Diego sports leader, the mighty 1090.
Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys are the real deal. Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys. Their entire practice is dedicated to representing motorcyclists. As riders themselves, they understand why you ride, the issues you face, and the motorcycle culture. For over 30 years, Russ Brown and his partner Chuck Coro have been helping injured motorcyclists and their families get the care and compensation they deserve. Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys also created BAM. BAM! A nationwide buddy system of over 2 million riders helping riders in the event of a roadside emergency. BAM offers free legal advice, and thanks to Russ Brown, they have staff on hand to take your call 24/7, 365 days a year.
Imagine a real person answering the phone 24/7.
Just call 1-800-4BIKERS for more information and to get your BAM card today. If you go down, call Russ Brown. 1-800-4BIKERS and online at russbrown.com.
Here's an idea. Bear with me. You could save quite a bit of money just by switching your motorcycle insurance to Geico. Piles of it, in fact. But there may not be a lot of room on your bike for all that extra cash. So I had somewhat of an idea. You could get one of those nifty little sidecars, pile it up with all that money you just saved, and merrily drive on your way. It's just a thought. Just off the top of my head.
Call Geico today for a free motorcycle rate quote. Geico, saving people money on more than just car insurance.
The negotiation begins the minute you walk in the door, Frank.
Jerry, I'm going to Toyota Carlsbad for my new Toyota. I don't have to worry
Oh, brother, walk in with that attitude, you're dead meat.
Yeah, I don't think that's
First
the case.
thing when you walk in,
What?
walk out.
Jerry,
you come back the next day, just walk right in, walk right out. Look, come back a week later, look them right in the eye and say,
I'd like to buy a car.
No, walk out.
Jerry, does this explain why you don't own a car?
You made me forget, was I in or out?
You're out.
Walk into big savings today on new Toyotas at Toyota Carlsbad.
Toyota Carlsbad.
This is Bike Week Radio Show with Bobby Wooldridge, Broc Glover, and Paul Carruthers on San Diego's sports leader, the mighty 1090.
Welcome back to Bike Week Radio Show. San Diego sports leader, the mighty 1090. And I guess Broc's helicopter had to take a hard left turn to Krispy Kreme donuts or something.
Well, he wants to feed us. You know, Broc, he
He
gives
wants to
till
feed
it hurts.
him. Yeah. And so Brock's will be calling in just a few minutes.
We can talk Supercross.
But yeah, we don't
can
need no
warm
Broc
up the
Glover.
mics.
You don't need no Golden Boy.
Broc who?
Broc who? Broc with a K?
Oh,
Ouch.
well, that's
That
going
was
to make
harsh.
the plane land, or
That was
helicopter
right-
land a little quicker.
That was a kick right to the solar plexus.
But
anyway, it was exciting last night. You know, Phoenix Supercross, round 2 of the 2015 Monster Supercross series. And Paul, you and I were knocking around here before we got on air. I mean, there was some stuff that went down last night. I mean, I had predicted, I had a bet with Pat Cox, my lovely bride, that Ken Roxon was going to go 2 for 2. But Eli Tomac was the rider she chose, and Eli, you know, lit it up in the 450 class. And I didn't realize this, but that was his first ever 450 class win, which was kind of nice.
Yeah, it was cool to see, and maybe we should have Pat in here as the host instead of you.
Probably should. She's a lot more knowledgeable.
We
on this
could
stuff.
use some more knowledge in here.
Yeah, but good racing all around. You know, some of the highlights for me personally was my man Zach Osborne riding the number 16 Rockstar Husqvarna in the 250 class. I mean, the poor guy, he has a thumb broken at the joint at Anaheim 1 just a week ago, and toughs it out. You know, it happened before the race last week, and he just taped it and got on the bike, and he finished on the podium, second place last week. And there he was, lined up, and he had to ride not only his heat race last night and the final. He also had to race in a last chance qualifier, and he made it to the final round, and he finished in the top 10 last night, which is commendable considering here's a guy with a really useless thumb, and he just hung on like Jesse Nelson does. You know, Jesse's only got one thumb, and he hung on last night and really put in a journeyman ride.
Yeah, in the 450 class, I mean, you can see you probably weren't alone in thinking that Ken Roczen, was going to win, because after Anaheim, it's easy to say, oh, yeah, the guy's going to win every single round. Well,
and he was so dominant.
Right, we knew that wasn't going to happen, but you could thought maybe that his role would continue a little bit longer than just the one race. And
since we were wagering, it wasn't a bad wager.
Yeah, that we don't want to know that. But anyway, those two battled a bit, which was kind of cool. The racing was interesting, and then once Tomac got ahead, he sort of kind of ran away a little bit.
Yeah, he yarded him pretty quick.
Yeah, he yarded him pretty quick. When you watched him, you could just tell he had a little more speed, and he had that speed throughout the whole night. Yeah. I think everybody kind of knew. But then again, at Anaheim, similar thing. He had that speed all night, except in the main event, things went horribly bad for him.
Yeah.
And I read,
if he gets a start, I think the key to beating Ken Roczen is you just can't let him get the start. If he gets the whole shot, he's just such a consistent, strong, capable rider. He's gone. So if you can get him behind you.
Yeah, but I mean, Tomac got started behind him, but was able to.
But he did. But he stayed.
And I think he's the one
right
guy
on
that's
his wheel.
capable of doing that.
I think so.
And it was. I read somewhere that the Anaheim 1 debacle for Tomac, where he had a couple of crashes and finished 20th or 21st or something like that. He basically has to have like 8 wins with Roczen finishing second for him to make up from that horrible night in round 1. So he's got.
So on paper, it's possible.
Well, it's going to be possible because you're gonna you know that Ken Roczen's not going to finish first or second in every round. I mean,
probably
it just
not.
Doesn't usually happen that way. You have a problem. You have to go to an LCQ. You have a long night. You have a bad gate pick, and things sort of unravel. And there's enough guys in the field that on a bad night you could get 5th or 6th if you're somebody like that. So there's a long ways to go, but it's going to be fun to watch. And there was some other guys like Davey Millsaps rebounded.
Yeah.
He was the other guy that we talked about last week that just had a horrible opening round in Anaheim, and he bounced back with 5th. Now his road to the top is, I mean, that at least if you're Eli Tomac, you showed last night that you have the speed to potentially win all those races.
And even last week before he crashed, Eli was the fast qualifier, I think 2 weeks consecutively. He was fastest qualifier yesterday as well as he was at Anaheim.
Right, but Millsaps hasn't shown that yet, so he's got a longer road to get himself back into championship consideration. Weston Pike had a great night.
I love that guy. He's one of the Bike Week Radio Show favorites, kind of a local guy.
Again, I don't know him, but he just seems like this hardworking guy that's battled for a long time, and now he's gotten a factory ride or semi-factory ride, and
there's nothing polished about him, but man, he's a tough rider, and he showed us last night he's got some skill.
I also liked seeing James Stewart's little brother Malcolm finish second.
Mookie,
because he's the other guy that's kind of, I mean, he's had a rough go of it in the 2 weeks, and you start to think, man, does this guy deserve what he's gotten?
And I like it when they interview him. He just tells it like it is.
Yeah,
it's gut level. They stick a mic in his face, which they're doing. I think you'll probably see him on the mic, come hell or high water for the rest of the season. He just says, I need to calm myself down. I just need to chill a little bit, because it's true. The guys are amped up. It's early season. They want to make their mark early.
Yeah, so it was good to see him get second, because you'd hate to see a young guy like that start to doubt himself, and I'm sure he was doubting himself a bit. So, and also it was funny. I think that it was on Twitter. There was a photo of James Stewart. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah,
but he's
all geared up, watching it on TV.
Yeah, in all of his gear, sitting on the couch, which I think is kind of funny.
That was a good PR move for him, too.
I mean, I honestly miss having him in that series.
Everybody does.
Because it just doesn't feel the same without him.
Well, the private chopper has landed finally. Brockster has made his way off the helipad and back on the phone. Brockster, how we doing?
Good, man. I'm just getting off the shuttle bus landing from Phoenix, and just
shuttle bus. I think you mean limousine.
Yeah, the limo. Well, we sent a driver for you, Brockster.
Yeah, I know. That guy was a little late, you guys. You guys did a little better job.
Well, he's driving a 77 Pacer with, recap tires, so it's not like you can
haul
down.
It's really wide in the back. Those Pacers are extra wide, so that's really good. So
we want people to be able to see you. Go ahead.
Absolutely. I was listening to you guys talk about it. I mean, what a great thing. And, you're talking about Weston Pike and all. I mean, I found out a little tidbit, maybe a possible secret, maybe a little fractured bone in the bottom of the fibula.
Just tell us. Really? A fibula on Weston Pike?
He, about lap 15, 16, his foot came down crooked, and it looked like it might have popped a piece of the bone on the end of his fibula. So little Bike Week radio tidbit there. Probably not a lot of people know, but he's gonna have to face the is he gonna go in there and put a screw in the thing and try to gut it out? I mean, he already gutted it out to finish the race as strong as he did, but he's got a possible injury there that could keep him off the bike for a week or two, or
bummer, or make him tougher.
Yeah, he's about as tough as a $2 steak as it is. I mean, the kid is just a rock hard, just amazing. And then, I don't know if you guys talked at all with Justin Barsha, his teammate. So, over at the JGR guys, you think about that. Here's the guy that's paid all that money to come over to JGR. He looks like the guy that's probably going to come over and be the leader of the team. And Weston Pike is working the guy each week. So
big time.
It's I talked to Justin Barsha. He I don't know if you saw what happened on the start. They had to have shown it where he almost looped out.
Yeah, almost looped out.
Yeah, and according to him, it was like I've never done that ever in my life. He said the bike was missing, and I said, was it up on the rev limiter? Because they have all these starting electronic mapping and things. And the bike was cutting out, and then when it all of a sudden, when he's in front of the gate, it just went to full power. He said it just went into a complete wheelie, and he goes, it was 20% of 30% of the power, and then all of a sudden it's 100% of the power. And he says it's just when they looked at the electronics, it looked like it was in the normal RPM range. They couldn't figure out anything after the race what happened, but clearly he's confident that that's what happened, and he doesn't know why it happened, but that's what happened when he almost looped out. So he's kind of bummed because I don't think he's ever worked as hard as he's working right now and got such little results out of it. So it's interesting, the tale of two tales over there at the JGR team right now.
Yeah. So. Broc, talk about that, that 90-degree turn. It seems, watching it on television, it looks like a short front straight. Then you got that 90-degree turn that I think every moto, it took guys out. Guys are going into the hay bale or the tough blocks. And then I noticed that some guys were probably purposely saying, I'm just going to take the inside line. I'm just going to go on the inside of the bales and, forego some calamity that might happen if I hook a bale with my foot peg. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, anybody that's been a somewhat long-time listener of Bike Week radio show, or anybody that's stood around me more than 5.5 minutes, has heard me claim. I mean, I like long starts. I hate short starts. I don't like them at all. They don't separate the field. The guy that gets a split-second jump gets no reward. I mean, in the long starts, like you see at outdoor races like Glen Helen, I mean, they're always the safest ones. They rarely have first-turn crashes because the guy that gets that split-second jump, he has 3 or 4 bike lanes at the end of the straightaway. In a short start, he's only got 2, 3, 4 feet, and the guy behind him runs right up behind him and bumps him out of the corner. So I don't like short starts. I like to see in stadiums they have enough room to make them longer, and I wish they would. But, I don't like tracks that, the start means everything. But, I will say last night, in my own opinion, the 2 fastest guys on the track won their races, so I like to see that happen. I mean, I think if you're the fastest guy, you should have a good chance to win, and I think Tomac was the fastest guy on the 450s, and I think Cooper Webb was the fastest guy in the 250 class. So at least those 2 guys, those won. But how about, did you guys talk about that pass Tomac put on Roxon?
We didn't, but
oh my gosh,
you were there seeing it with your own eyeballs.
I might have been the closest non-corner worker to the. I was standing in the team manager's tower right in that corner, and I'm still shaking my head what I saw. I mean, Eli was jumping out of the outside, going around the outside corner, and he was getting close to squaring up Roxon in the following corner. It was setting him up to go over the finish line and then dive underneath him in that hairpin corner after the finish. Well, Roxon got hip to the fact that was working, so he switched lines, and Tomac at the last second jumped over back into Roxon's inside line, and when he did the double, he launched off of the single and landed like in the berm at full throttle, and like it was amazing. I've never seen somebody. It wasn't even like there was a corner there, and I thought they were going to maybe collide. and he got in and out of the corner so fast he was 2 or 3 bike lengths ahead of Roxon when he made the pass, and it was really one of the most amazing displays of skill and racecraft I've seen in quite some time. And you know, it was obviously for the lead and for the win. It was an incredible deal. But after the race on the field, down on the podium area, it was interesting. You know, obviously the Geico Honda team was very happy, and the factory Honda team was very happy for Eli Tomac. The RCH team that Roxon rides for, they all looked like the dog just died. I mean, it was like, wait a minute, you've had a first and a second in the season so far on a team that's never won a race before, and they all looked like their dog had just died. I was actually walking through with one of their employees, and he was even shaking his head thinking, guys, we're in a great spot. We just extended our points lead in the 450 class, the premier class, and you guys are acting like we just lost the championship. It was very, very interesting, put it that way.
So, hey, talk about, one of the highlights for me was watching Justin Hill. I mean, I kind of like that kid, and he just shows this spark that I'm sure isn't unique to him, but he just rode well last night. I really enjoyed watching him. Make some passes and in his early rounds in the heat race was just a real pleasure to watch.
How much would you pay just to watch Justin Hill and Tyler Bowers go at it on a one-on-one winner-take-all race? I mean, those two guys just lay it on the line every corner, every lap.
They do. I dig it.
Yeah, the 250 class. Both the racing, it was nice to see, because last week the racing really wasn't that good. This weekend the racing was good, and it's nice to see that the track, it lent itself to some little more competitive bar rubbing and passing and going on. And I mean, even after, you saw the Tomac Roxon battle, then in the back you had a little bit more. You had the Dungey Pike battle, and then once those two settled in, the last 3 or 4 laps, one of the most exciting battles on the track was Justin Barsha battling with Chad Reed, and they were dicing it out for like 10th and 11th place, and it was an incredible. No guy would give an inch on that one, and it was a lot of fun. So there was some good racing going on all around the track that maybe you didn't pick up on the television coverage.
Yeah, for a while there, it looked like there was 4, 5, 6 guys back in that battle for 8th, 9th, 10th in there.
There absolutely was, and and the guy Trey Kennard had made his way through the field, and some of the other guys had come up through the field, and so you had who else had an impressive ride? I mean, Jason Anderson had another impressive ride. He started, I want to say he was 14th or 15th at least on the first lap, and he came all the way up too, and he was just ahead of Trey Kennard, and they kind of freight trained their way all the way up through the field there. So it was nice to see. I mean, Jason Anderson, he showed that his second place last week. It wasn't a fluke. He backed it up with a nice 6th, and then Andrew Shaw rode well too. So it was. I can't wait till Anaheim 2 next week. So if you're down in San Diego or anywhere in Southern California, you get yourself out and watch it live. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, Brockster, great stuff, buddy. We'll catch you next week when you make your way back in studio.
You got it. I'll talk to you guys soon, and I'll see you sooner.
Thanks, Brock.
See you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Well, great stuff out of Broc Glover there. Just got to steal 10 minutes with him, but next week we'll get the full Broc Glover show as Supercross heads back to Anaheim.
It's like we were just there.
Deja vu.
All over again.
Nice. Paul Carruthers, excellent work out of you, my friend. Get home safe. If not, you can stay and crush beers at my house.
Now he's got time to assist motorists all the way home.
I should have just made a plan and hung out with you all day, watch football, but I would have.
Oh, is there football on today?
I would have eventually had to get home. Uber.
Uber.
Well, excellent work out of you, Scott, as well. And make sure to stay updated on the Bike Week Radio Show Facebook page. Best way to communicate through us the entire week that you are frequently updating.
Yeah, and speaking of Facebook, the opening round of Facebook this morning, our guest from last week from HRC, the head man, he was the initial post on there. So we threw out some love to him and thanked him for stopping by and spending time with us at Anaheim 1.
And also big shout-out Ryan Sanders, former Bike Week Radio Show employee.
Big shout-out. Today's the opening round of the West Hare Scrambles from Page, Arizona. And I just saw some photos he sent over to us. They're racing in the rain today in the desert. I love riding in the desert.
Desert in the rain.
Nothing better.
Yeah. Well,
no dust and Velcro traction.
We'll be back next week right here on San Diego Sports Leader, the mighty 1090.
You've been listening to Bike Week Radio Show.
Powered by Geico. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on motorcycle insurance.
Join us next week for more Bike Week Radio Show on San Diego's sports leader, the mighty 1090.